Hey family, welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Red Twan Hill, and with me I have the individual responsible for over 19 billion in the service disabled veteran-owned small business community in federal contracts, the first national spokesperson for the service disabled veteran-owned small business community, Mr. Walter Cotton the third. Mr. Cotton, how you doing, man?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
Man, I am well. I am well. Well, I'm all right. I'm all right. Something just recently came out that I think is newsworthy to talk about, and that's the Army Times releasing an article in regards to the consolidation of VISNs or veteran integrated service networks. Um, we have 18 currently, and they're talking about consolidating that to 5 networks. What's your thoughts on that? What is your thought? Is this another consolidation and bundling effort that we're looking at, or are they really trying to change infrastructure to make it run smoother?
I'm highly suspect about these kinds of actions and behaviors because there has long been an interest toward privatizing the VA healthcare system, right? Um, to outsourcing that to commercial interests, and the kinds of actions that we're seeing that take the skills, the competency that is required to run the largest single hospital system in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and remove them through these actions that look like policy changes. I'm suspect about that, right? I'm suspect about that when you have a secretary that comes in and makes these kind of overtures that are traceable back to an agenda that is not in the best interest of the veteran, not in the best interest of these United States. And so I'd be looking at that particular suggestion very, very closely as veterans, and I'd be asking, WTF?
Mm-hmm. And my question is, so if they are consolidating, essentially that means contracts probably going to be consolidated, meaning that they're going to be larger IDIQ. So we see that they have $1 trillion for the community care. They're looking for 10-year contract. So are we looking at larger IDIQs, which means that it could potentially give justification to why they can't award it to a small business because they don't have a reasonable expectation that they come to the table contract
Well,
viable and contract ready?
candidly, Mr. Hill, I think that the right-minded look at this is the same kind of vantage point or same kind of view that we took as it related to the change in rating status in the event that your modality was increased or enhanced by medication. I think that the veteran community at large need to understand where this came from. Right now it's a report, right? In military times, it's a report. We need to see, is there any fire under this? Like, is this something somebody's just talking about, speculating about, or is this an action that's actually underway? And if it is, let's do something about it, right? We've got a number of actions that are coming out of the political appointees that this administration have put in place that's suspect, right? And you all who know me and been listening to me for some time, I'm not partisan, right? I'm all about what is constitutionally correct. And what I'm seeing in this action that you're talking about right now is something that would result from an individual suffering from the Peter principle, right? Because anyone that's been around this complex a system knows that there's certain critical Jenga pegs that you can't pull, right? And those pegs that are connected to the knowledge base, the cultural knowledge base of the institution is one of them. And if you're taking multiple visions that have ecosystems, they have relationships, they have families, they have communities, and you are disrupting them because of your a good idea of efficiency, people are going to question that. That is a Peter principle move. I'll give you an example on the SBA side of the equation. I heard recently that they're talking about moving the central office for the SBA out to Herndon, Virginia. Well, that's a 30-mile move. And those employees who have been trucking into that DC office, who bought property and the like, are going to have their entire lives disrupted, right? That change may require them to look at a career move. Those kinds of decisions are not decisions that a prudent, educated, experienced leader makes. Those are the kinds of decisions that a transient leader makes. Those are the kinds of decisions that somebody that's not going to be there to have to deal with the aftermath says, yeah, you know what, Angela Merkel, send us all of your immigrants, right? We can take care of them as a nation, and it turns into the shit show that Europe is experiencing right now. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we have to slow this process down. And fortunately, you know, us citizen soldiers, right? Us veterans, we have a superpower. We have a network. And this is one of the areas that Mr. Hill is bringing to our attention, the fact that they are underhandedly trying to reduce the number of visions that we have to work with. That requires our attention. Let's do something about it.
Yes, sir. And if, like you said, if it's not backed by any bills or anything, this could be a telegraph, and that means we have the, or how I view it, we have the right to say something like with the rating and be able to change the trajectory of that, because we've seen that as not being the most effective or efficient for the citizens and the veterans.
You know, I mean, there's a reason why, you know, our Constitution talks about foes, foreign and domestic, right? There are a number of ways to undermine a superior foe, and you can often overtake them more effectively from within than you can from an external assault.
Yes, sir. That's a good segue, because I believe it was yesterday or day before yesterday, the Port Arthur, Texas oil refinery caught on fire. That's one of our largest oil refineries, and we're dealing with the Strait of Hormuz right now, and that's creating a congestion in oil and energy. Now that was kind of suspicious to me. We're dealing with a crisis right now, and then now one of our largest oil refineries is caught on fire. Are we at the point of no return right now when it comes to what's going on? Like, are we about to face a immense energy crisis that's going to trickle down into everything? Are we going into a depression?
You know, every indicator, every historic indicator that any economist has ever pointed to suggests that our economy pivots on the availability of cheap fuel, cheap oil. And the crisis that we are seeing, the man-made crisis, is causing the cost of petroleum to go through the roof, and the consequences of that, right? The follow-on effect are just catastrophic. And so, yes, Mr. Hill, I think that we have passed a point of no return as it relates to cheap fuel. And that is going to have the impact on the economies across the globe that one could expect. And those consequences are potentially horrific if you read into them. The good news, though, and this is something that we can always hold out hope for, is the ingenuity of the human spirit. And so all other things being equal, if we don't change the arc of performance of the trajectory of the actions that we're on, it's going to be a hurt locker for the world. And the worst case imaginings are something that we're going to have to deal with. The good news, again, is that we have the advent of human nature. And there is always the possibility that this adverse condition produces enough stress on the system that we come up with an alternative form of energy. We come up with a alternative source of energy that changes the game. And so I'm not prepared to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I do see a headwind of a tsunami that is of epic proportion that we're going to have to deal with. But if I'm going to be betting, I'm going to be betting on the human spirit. I'm going to be betting on man's ability to come up with a innovative way around this hurt locker so that we don't get ourselves stuck in it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when you talked about innovation, the first thing I thought about was that article you shared with me, the Marine who created a cost-effective solution for antennas that was $10. I believe was saving the government a couple $100,000. Now, when we look at those type of innovations, what's the difference?
Mr. Hill, I think you need to give that article a little bit more attention, because that article represents the kind of innovation, the kind of human innovation that we just talked about, that we're going to need in large order, right? If we're going to rebalance this equation. And so what Mr. Hill is talking about specifically is a situation where a serviceman utilized 3D printing to solve a hard problem that the unit was having in the field, like this particular antenna that cut communication for the entire unit, right? That cost about $5,000, that was on the mask of their vehicle, right, would break. And it was a 220-day replenishment cycle to get this $5,000 item back in place. This particular service member was given an opportunity to go participate in a innovation manufacturing boot camp. And in that boot camp, he was given the charge to try to solve this problem. And what he was able to ultimately come up with was a 3D printing solution that took this antenna and replaced it for about $10. So now riddle me this one. You've got a antenna that has a commercial price tag of $5,500 and some odd dollars. It has a 220-day replacement cycle, and this serviceman was able to innovate it down to $10, and the replacement cost is, let me reach into my backpack and get one of these out, right? It's that type of innovation that we're going to need to bring into the employ of the industrial base of these United States of America, right? We're talking about reshoring our manufacturing assets, and we need the best and the brightest brains to bring the best and brightest ideas first to bear on supporting the lethality needs of our warfighters. It's unfortunate that that's one of the considerations that we have to make, but that's where we're at. And then secondly, we need to have that same attention focused on the national security needs of these United States of America, right? Most people don't recognize how important the economy is to the security of this nation. But when we have economic distress, right, our citizens are disjointed. They're uncomfortable. And so as long as we can maintain economic buoyancy, we keep the borders of these United States comfortable and safe. So anything that is occurring that's causing hyperinflation, right, that's causing the potential for recession, that's causing the opportunity for your neighbor or my neighbor to be out of work, is a potential national security threat. And it's the primary reason why it is the policy of our Congress, right, insofar as the government can, to support the existence, the thriving of small businesses, because small businesses are that vital to the economic fabric of these United States. So we're in a season right now where economics and policy have to come together so that we can first insulate ourselves over the coming storm that is resulting from this shift in the economic balance of power that's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, and then ultimately put ourselves in a position where we have an insulated border, we have an environment within these United States of America that allows us to wait out the storm.
Yes, sir. So do you see this as an opportunity for innovation to pretty much drive solutions for us in this environment? So would you say that the SBIR is becoming even more viable in this season, and even the increase on the phase 2 funding, is that going to be something that's going to should be more highly utilized during this season?
Well, innovation in the form of manufacturing is one of the areas that we're going to need some assistance. But innovation in the form of, how we more functionally interface with adjutant AI, right? How we incorporate in our environment, right, these new tools that bring a efficiency to bear that make my capability obsolete, right? So we need innovations that are going to kind of reimagine how our society interfaces from an interdependency perspective. So the answer to the question is yes. The government has a program called Small Business Innovation and Research. And that program has a pathway where it pays average citizens to imagine those things that are going to be of benefit to the government. Imagine those things that are going to be of benefit to the economy. And that program was recently updated and renewed, as Mr. Hill just suggested, with a phase 2 component that goes to as much as $30 million. The government will partner with you to help you build innovations that become that next big thing that solves the hard problem here in these United States, but equally becomes something that the world beats a path to our door to buy. The government wants to partner with us to get that done. So that SBIR program is a funding source, but the thing that we have, right, is the Geppettos, right? America doesn't have a limit of creative people, right? That's why the Chinese are always over here trying to steal things, trying to steal our secrets, right? We don't have a shortage of Geppettos with ideas. What we need to do is empower those Geppettos, right, with a democratized approach to taking those ideas and bringing them into a relationship with these United States of America. We've got some ideas that are afoot, like maker spaces, right? We've got colleges and universities, right? And we've got military installations. And I can tell you that there's some people out there that are imagining an idea that would intersect, right? That would integrate those three needs, right? Would integrate the colleges and universities, right? Would intersect the manufacturing, would intersect the military need, and create a democratized approach to invention that serves the communities that these assets live within, and create a viable value generator that causes the world to beat a path to their doorway. What I'm talking to you all about, folks, is a strategy that we are deploying in my hometown of St. Petersburg, Florida. But Mr. Hill, I'm not supposed to be talking to y'all about that here. I'm supposed to be talking to y'all about that on the Solution Zone, which is our new podcast. Let me not steal the thunder, Mr. Hill.
Oh no, I was like, oh man, he's starting to go a little too deep. And that's why you need to join the community, right? And this is not a sales pitch, but that's why you need to be part of the community, because you're not hearing people outside that talking like this and coming up with these type of strategies that are solutions. Now, when we talk about We the people movement, we not just talking. This is stuff that we actually are doing in the background, and this is something that you have to be that you should be a part of if you're a veteran, service disabled veteran, or a patriotic citizen. But I did have a question. Okay, so my question is, you often talk about the war fighters, when they transition to as a veteran, and them knowing best about what's inside the system, meaning the military, and how to best improve. Is it unlawful, or is it a pathway where, say, somebody like myself who's not too far removed from the military, where I have a platoon sergeant he's a sergeant major now, or first sergeant, that's still in the military, and like they understand tanks. Tanks could sit there for a day, it worked today, and you come back tomorrow, that whole tank don't work. So is it an opportunity to be able to, say, work with the inside the military to be able to find solutions? Like, I understand we got this problem. Now I take that idea and run with it to create an innovative solution. Is that something that is possible, plausible, or is that something that's unlawful? Or do you, how does that look to you?
You're asking a very important question that needs to be addressed and needs to be answered from an equity perspective. And I'm going to use the antenna example that we just talked about just a moment ago. And so that serviceman or woman who innovated in that fashion, right? That took a $5,530 item that had lead time challenges and the like, and reduced it down to a $10 cost. Most assuredly got a reward, most assuredly got a plaque, most assuredly got a mention in the battalion, the brigade newspaper. But his family is not going to benefit from that demonstrative cost reduction that serviceman or woman made for his employer, Uncle Sam. Now, had that serviceman or woman had a buddy that was a disabled veteran business owner that he had collaborated with, and had him connect to I'm gonna start breaking my eye here, the SBIR program, right? There's a strong probability that same innovation could have been made in a way that produced generational wealth for that service member and his or her family, right? We as a nation need to take into consideration that imbalance, right? We've got programs like that were created to reward our servicemen and women when they create advantages for us, but they're antiquated, right? They're outdated, right? They don't take into consideration the kind of invasive cost reductions that are available. And so I'm going to suggest that we need to take a look at that as a service. We need to take a look at that as a nation so that we can put something in place so that our servicemen and women don't look for workarounds, and they're not looking to sham. We used to call it shamming when I was in service, right?
Oh, yeah,
shamming is when you go to work but you don't work.
Yep.
You whistle with your hands in your pocket, but they're not underperforming against the request. Be all of that as it may, those of you that are disabled veterans that are within the sound of my voice, you guys need to be listening to what Mr. Hill and I have been telling you, right? You have a grateful nation that wants you to be rich. And this grateful nation, we hallucinate, have dismantled DEI and pushed our service disabled veterans into the safe harbor position right now, where America has hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about in the current fiscal year. They have hundreds of billions of dollars that have your name on it, right? If you're responsible and responsive, and you can show up in the contracting officer's office at that point of need with the plate of brownies, you're going to get the business. But if you don't, right? They're going to have to start some kind of workaround. So the point that Mr. Hill is saying, the point that I'm trying to make to those of you that are disabled veterans is there's a robust season out there. Just get yourself responsive and responsible, and you can take advantage of it. But here's another piece that I want us to start talking about, and that is the interest that we've had in some time in making sure that our other fraternity members, and those are the veterans that have a DD 214 that says they've honorably served this country, that they equally get a chance to participate in a contract program government-wide, just like our service disabled veterans participate in it. And we got the whisper word that the small business goaling report is going to come out with a increase in goal for veterans, and they're going to deliver that government wide. But absent a contracting program that supports that, those goaling and scorecard things are simply aspirational. Right, they're good aspirations, and they rest on the good intention and sometimes the effort to work around that the agency has, especially if they don't have a contracting program. And so, what we need if we're going to see an outcome like that is the goal fulfilled that my buddy Bill Elmore has been trying to drive since he got Public Law 10650 in place, and that is to stand up a similar contracting program for veteran-owned small businesses. Many of you know that in the last 2 sessions of Congress, there were procedural missteps that caused this outcome not to be achieved, right? I have it under good authority that this Congress wants to get it done, and we've got some evidence of that fact. There is a bill in the House, Contract Our Veterans, and a bill in the Senate, Contract Our Veterans, that they've stood up to accomplish that goal. And this is an anomaly because it doesn't happen this way unless they want to expedite a bill. My concern is that we've had all of these events occur in the theater that are distracting. We've got all of these events occurring at our airports that are distracting, and our Congress can say, I had something more urgent and important to address, and another cycle of Congress goes by and that bill doesn't get passed. And so I know where there's no investment, there's no appreciation. So we need to put some skin in the game for Congress, right? And we are in the throes of a midterm election. They may not be telling you a lot about it in your popular media, but we're there. The majority of the House and Senate will turn over during this election cycle, right? Let's put a little skin in the game. And here's the skin that we're going to put in the game. And I'm going to get my VSO buddies to back this up so that you guys know who I am. So I don't need to tell you I'm telling the truth. What we're going to do is we're going to require the House and the Senate to sign on as co-sponsors of this bill. And those members of the House and Senate that are signed on as co-sponsors of the bill and help us expedite getting it passed will receive the veteran community's favor during this midterm. That's it. That's all.
Yes, sir. And I also want the audience not to overlook the fact that, Mr. Cotton is not just anybody, right? Him and Mr. Elmore has been driving this effort for the past 2 years. So
Mr. Hill, you don't have to tell them that. You don't have to tell them that. My mama told me a very valuable lesson when I was younger, and my mama said, "Baby, what do you tell a man who's already got 2 black eyes?" The answer is you don't tell him nothing. You already told him twice. So if you all don't know who I am and my capability and my reach, overlook my voice, and you will feel my wrath.
Yes, sir. And on that note, guys, I'm Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are